Hello, thank you for listening. This is the near death experience of Barbara, and this experience occurred on August 10th of 1967 and was documented on September 30th of 2017. Open quote. I was jumping off the top of a small dam into the river. I followed the example of some older boys who were doing it for fun. It was a dangerous and risky activity, but I thought I could do it successfully. My first few jumps off the dam were exhilarating. I just needed to be sure that I jumped out far enough to clear the cascade of water falling down from the dam. Otherwise, one could get pulled down under the water and pinned to the river bottom. Needless to say, I made too short of a jump, and I fell into the cascading water. I was tumbled and pushed to the bottom of the river and pinned down flat by the water pressure. I tried to break free, but was not strong enough. I held my breath and thought to myself, this is it. I'm going to die. The moment I drew water into my lungs, I thought, dying is so easy. Only one breath span between here and there. It was soft, like gossamer on a butterfly's wings. My life flashed before my eyes in rapid sequence like flashcards or playing cards being ruffled quickly. All of my life's moments, including the inconsequential moments as well as the important instances, they all came flooding through. From the red canvas of my tennis shoes to the wind and smell of the oak trees I loved to climb, everything I experienced was shown frame by frame in a part second. I was suddenly pulled by many filaments located in the center of my chest. I went forward like a kite of a string, down through a tunnel or wormhole. I went extremely fast, like a bottle rocket. Whoosh! I was flying toward a bright light at the end of the tunnel. Then I was standing in bare feet on river sand. I was standing on the edge of a great river which flowed from left to right. It looked to be a couple miles wide. Behind me were stabilized dunes with willow and alder trees, intermittently spaced along the river's edge. There was grass in the dunes. I first looked for the sun, but found nothing that provided a light source for the daylight conditions. I then looked across the river to see such an amazing world of mountains, trees, waterfalls, exotic flowers. Everywhere was green, green, green. It looked like our own natural world, but on steroids. There was so much life with colors, textures, light, and smells that were all in a state of absolute perfection and abundance. I could scarcely take it in. Then, whoosh! I felt myself being pulled behind by the same filaments between my shoulder blades back through the wormhole. I found myself being resuscitated at the river's edge. A couple of teenage boys had jumped in the water, found me, and pulled me out. End quote. Wow, Barbara. Whew, that was pretty amazing. There's some questions here. Question, rating your level of consciousness versus normal, more conscious and alert. It felt like the level of alertness that comes with an adrenaline rush. Things appeared and felt crisper, clearer, and my skin felt more sensitive. I could take in a lot of information and details without effort. Where were you at your highest level of consciousness? Answer, when I found myself standing at the river's edge and could feel that my feet were damp and had sand between my toes. Question, comparing your vision. Answer, I had excellent vision, both short and long range. The edges of objects were extremely clear. I was not wearing glasses. My everyday vision is very poor. I am legally blind. Comparing your hearing. Answer, very acute. I swear I could hear a butterfly speak a mile away. Under the water, I could hear only muffled sounds of pounding water. Question. What life changes occurred in your life after the experience? Answer: moderate changes in my life. After seeing such a world in my NDE, I became a botanist, wildlife biologist, ornithologist, forester, and a wetland ecologist through both academic and professional pursuits. I tell folks I'm going to be a botanist herbalist in heaven. How accurately do you remember the experience in comparison to other life events that happened around the same time? I remember it more accurately. My memory of this event is so much more clear and accurate than anything else I remember of that vacation time. Question: do you have any psychic, non-ordinary, or other special gifts after your experience that you did not have before the experience? Answer: uncertain. I am an empath. I have the ability to read the emotional state and truth of people and situations upon contact. I am able to alleviate the sense of suffering in others. Question: are there one or several parts of your experience that are especially meaningful or significant to you? Answer: I had a shared death experience with my paternal grandmother. We ended up at the exact same place as I experienced before, only 40 plus years later. Question: have you ever shared this experience with others? Answer: yes. I shared it immediately with my family. It was received with great skepticism. Question: what do you believe about the reality of your experience? Answer: experience was definitely real. Question: at any time in your life, has anything ever reproduced any part of the experience? Answer: yes. I had an experience. I experienced a duplication of this NDE with my grandmother's passing. We had a shared NDE. It was June 1989. I was working in mineral exploration as a biogeochemist and soil microbiologist. I had finished my lab work a bit late, was in a hurry to get home, and dumped 2 vials of chemicals into the laboratory basin to get rid of them. A strong chemical reactive vapor rose up from the sink and hit me full on in the face. I immediately rinsed off my eyes and face in the laboratory emergency shower. I ended up having an allergic reaction to the vapor, which resulted in my eyes being swollen shut. Thank goodness the next day was Saturday. I was unable to do much around the house, so I lay down on the couch with ice packs over my eyes to reduce the swelling. My partner was in the room with me when I was doing this. As I lay on the couch, images began to flow into my mind. The creak of the kitchen metal cabinet door at my grandmother's house would creak every time she went to open it. I saw a bare spot on the carpet inside her front door and saw her watering pansies in her backyard. I remember telling my partner that I thought I was dying, since it appeared that my life was beginning to flash before my eyes like the NDE as a teenager. I even asked her, "Am I dying?" She said no, that she didn't think so. With that feedback, I began to look more closely at the images flashing through my brain. Although they were familiar, I could recognize that they were not particularly mine. I told my partner, "I think these pictures belong to my grandmother." She said, "We should check the time." She wrote it down as 11:26 a.m. Immediately after that, I felt pulled by my solar plexus filaments into the wormhole and toward the light. It all looked and felt exactly like what had happened before. I felt calm and curious, but was wondering what was happening. Whoosh! I landed with my feet in wet river sand, barefoot again, right back where I had visited before. Whoa! Was the only thought that came to mind. My senses were operating at a high level of sensitivity. The color of blue in the sky was robin's egg blue, and it was so crisp and clear. The sky was the bluest of all blues. I could see each grain of sand with such clarity. I could smell the acrid scent of leaves and saw small debris floating in the water. I heard the breeze rustle through the grass on the dune, as clear as sandpaper rubbing against a chalkboard. Everything seemed alive, full of energy, bursting the seams in abundance, wellness, and potency. Again, I was facing the river. I heard heavy sobbing off to my right and saw my grandmother crumpled on the ground in the sand at the river's edge. I knew what was wrong. She had always been terrified of water her entire life. Grandma, Grandma, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I asked as I gently went to touch her left shoulder. Grandma, it's Barbara. Barbara, do you remember me? She was inconsolable and continued to weep. I placed my arm around her shoulders and whispered to her, The water is not deep, Grandma. It's only an illusion. It barely comes up to your ankles. She continued to weep. As I was holding her, a young man about the age of 16 came running over the dunes toward us. He had on long swimming trunks with a towel over his shoulder. He stopped short when he saw us and asked if he could help. I told him the problem. He placed his hand on her shoulder and asked if it was true that she was afraid of the water. She looked at him and said, Yes. He returned her gaze and said, Camila, I'm here to help you. Let's do this together. She looked at him again, and you could see wonder ripple across her face. Clinton? She asked. Yes, he replied. It turned out to be my grandfather, her husband as a young man, and her only love. He helped her off the ground, brushed her off, and they both stepped into the river together. At that moment, I was jerked back through the wormhole by the filaments between my shoulder blades. I woke up on the couch and told my partner all about it. One day later, I received the call that my grandmother had died. I asked my sister the time of death. She replied, 11:26 yesterday morning. I brought this story forward at my grandmother's wake and told them all about what I had seen and experienced. The room was dead silent. Then my mother smacked the table with her hand and said, Hot damn! I knew someone would catch the crossing. In our family, someone always catches the crossing. I never asked her about that comment, but she sure sounded familiar with the other stories in her own family. I have not had this occur again, but I can see the landscape and the situation clearly in my memory as if it were yesterday. End quote. End question. Wow, two great stories. Thank you, Barbara. And thank you guys for listening. I hope you have an awesome day.